horrible episode of Alcohol and Atrocities. I am your favorite Capricorn who likes to strangle people, Chela.
And I am your host, Michelle.
I know we told y'all we weren't going to be long gone. We lied.
But we're here. That's what matters.
We're here and we're queer and we're ready. Today, we are going to talk about the Rwandan genocide, which at first we were going to try to not talk about Rwanda because it's fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. But then, I started watching Hotel Rwanda. I started Googling stuff and I was like, you know what? This would make, a decent episode because I don't feel like it's talked about enough. We do have the movie Hotel Rwanda that came out in 2004 and stuff like that. But I feel as far as actual people covering Rwanda, a lot of people don't. So I was just like, fuck it, let's do it. And then we sat down to do the research and completely hated our decision to do it. Not because of the topic at hand. It's how long it is. It's long, but then when you think about how long it was, in actuality, it's not that long. But the shit that they did within the confines of 100 days.
Yep, 100 days.
It's just fucking insane to me. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But today we are also going to be pairing this episode with whiskey because one of the national drinks of Rwanda is whiskey. The other one is beer. But as you guys know from previous episodes, Michelle does not drink beer because she is fucking lame.
I don't want your bread water. Leave me alone.
But yeah. Anyway, so without further ado, I'm going to change it. Michelle's going to start doing her side of everything first.
So today we're kind of covering... Honestly, this is going to be a 3-parter.
Maybe even a 4-part because even as we are recording this, we have still not finished the research for Rwanda.
Yes. So as of right now, what the goal is this first episode is going to be the background. What led up to it? What the culture was like? Things like that. What led up to the 100 days of chaos? Because it's important to know. I feel like it was important. So
it is important to know. Also, fucking trigger warning for everything.
Everything
you can think of, trigger warning. If you already know a little bit about Rwanda and this episode is going to make your stomach do backflips, please don't listen to it. Skip it. We'll come back. We'll have another one. It'll be something different, maybe a little bit lighthearted. Not really, because war crimes are not lighthearted
at all. But definitely, yeah, war crimes are abundant in this one. And just general genocide, which means the killing off of people in droves.
And also, trigger warning again, the Catholic Church is involved.
Of course. So let's just insert some religious trauma in there while we're at it.
Yeah, why not?
So the Rwandan genocide occurred between April 7th and July 15th, 1994. During the Rwandan Civil War. So this was a period, again, of about 100 days. You don't even have half a year, just 100 days. Member of the Tutsi minority ethnic group, as well as some moderate Hutu and Twa, were killed by armed Hutu militia. The most widely accepted scholarly estimates are anywhere from 500,000 to 662,000 Tutsi deaths. Basically, the Tutsis were a Bantu-speaking ethnic group and the second largest of 3 main ethnic groups in Rwanda and Burundi. Obviously, the other ones were the Twa and the Hutu.
You know what I found interesting? You put the highest number 662,000. When I was doing my research, the highest number was 800,000.
Well, this is scholarly estimates. This, not just other records.
But to think, that's how many deaths.
Yeah, that's crazy. In 100 days, just think about how many people had to die in 100 days. 5,000 per day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Shit is crazy. So again, just kind of heading to the background of the Civil War. Under German rule, the colonists favored the Tutsi over the Hutu when assigning administrative roles, believing them to be migrants from Ethiopia and racially superior. So the Germans were the ones to kind of instill that divide between the Hutu and the Tutsi.
Shocking.
In early 1930s, Belgium introduced a permanent division of the population by classifying Rwandans into three ethno-racial groups, with the Hutu representing about 84% of the population, the Tutsi 15%, and the Twa only about 1%. Compulsory identity cards were issued labeling under the heading for ethnicity and race, each individual as either Tutsi, Hutu, or Twa, or naturalized, which I couldn't find what that was for.
I have a question, and I had this question too when I watched Hotel Rwanda. What if you were mixed?
They, oh, you know what? I read it and I can't remember what it said.
Because
Let's
even in
find
the
out.
movie, the main guy who the movie's based off of, he's Hutu, but his wife is Tutsi. So
Yeah.
like would it be a thing of like, in the past, or like for instance, Italians, because I only know this because of my son's family. You're basically whatever your mom is. So if your mom's Italian, you're Italian. If she's Sicilian, you're Sicilian, regardless of what your father is.
Hmm. They just pretty much treated it as a Tootsie then.
So you were basically whatever. Okay.
While it was previously, while it had been previously been possible for particularly wealthy Hutus to become honorary Tutsis, the identity cards prevented any further movement between the groups, making uh, socioeconomic groups into rigid ethnic classes. So they really set the divide, and they weren't playing around. So this is just like kind of the groundwork for the racism that came off. Like, can you call it racism? They're all black. They were all Burundi or
It's prejudice.
Rwandan. Prejudice, there we go, that's the word. The ethnic identities of the Hutu and Tutsi were reshaped and mythologized by the colonizers. Dun dun dun. Who would have thought? Christian missionaries, cough cough, promoted the theory that the Hamitic origins of the kingdom um, and referred to distinctly Ethiopian features, hence foreign origins of the Tutsi caste. So apparently, Ethiopians were viewed as the creme de la creme. So
Yeah,
the more you look like them, the better.
yeah. They say, I'm gonna reference the movie so many times, but they even say it in Hotel Rwanda, because at one point one of the journalists, I believe he's an American journalist, he's played by Joaquin Phoenix. I completely forgot that man was in that movie until I rewatched it. He's asking the reporter, because he's like the cameraman or whatever. He asks the reporter, he's like, what's the difference between a Hutu and a Tutsi? They look the same. And they're at the bar of the hotel. And the reporter's like, oh, there's differences. So he looks over and there's these two girls. And he's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to pry. He's like, but what are you? And she goes, oh, I'm Hutu. And he was like, what about your friend? She's like, I'm Tutsi. He was like, they could be sisters.
Yeah, pretty much. After these mythologies provided the basis for anti-Tutsi propaganda in 1994, so it went all the way back to the beginning. After World War II, a Hutu emancipation movement began to grow in Rwanda, fueled by increasing resentment of the interwar social reforms and also an increasing sympathy for the Hutu within the Catholic Church. Like your face. The Catholic ministries increasingly viewed themselves as responsible for empowering the underprivileged Hutu rather than the Tutsi elite, leading rapidly to a formation of sizable Hutu clergy and educated elite that provided a new counterbalance to the established political order. So again, we have these people that are viewed as less than, and the church is like, you know what we should do? Raise their spirit. Which
Yay.
in theory is not terrible. You know, it's not not a bad idea.
Right.
The monarchy and the prominent Tutsis sensed a growing influence of Hutu and began to agitate for immediate independence on their own terms.
I don't
In
know if it's the fact that I can barely hear you right now, but every single time you say Hutu, it sounds like you're saying hoodoo.
Hutu, In 1957, a group of Hutu scholars wrote the Bahutu Manifesto. This was the first document to label the Tutsis and Hutu as separate races and called for the transfer of the power from Tutsi to Hutu based on what they determined statistical law. I mean, it makes sense. They were 84% of the population. So, again, in theory, makes sense.
I don't get that. With them being the majority group, like y'all was already winning.
Right.
You
But
know, like I don't get the amount of hatred.
the Germans divided them and gave more power, more administrative work, and more positions of power to the Tutsis. So,
Ah,
yeah, they were being ruled regardless by Tutsis. That's kind of what happened.
if we sound discombobulated this time around, it's because if you guys listen to our Spaniard episodes, Michelle's headset is going to shit, so I can barely hear
Yeah.
her when she speaks. So
Yeah, it's chaos, guys.
it really is.
On on November 1st, 1959, Dominique Mutswa, I'm so sorry, a Hutu sub-chief, was attacked close to his home in the Gitarama prefecture by supporters of the pro-Tutsi party. He survived, but rumors began spreading that he had been killed. Hutu activists responded by killing Tutsis, both the elite and the ordinary civilians, marking the beginning of the Rwandan Revolution. Just keep in mind that the 100 Days happened in 94, and this is only 59.
Yeah. They was beefing before the actual genocide took place,
Yep.
which I'm just like, how and I say this knowing fully well that I'm a Capricorn, but how can you hold a grudge that long?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm an earth sign.
I'm also an earth sign.
Yeah,
We
that's what I'm
hold
saying.
grudges, but
Exactly.
like, but I'm saying like 1959 to
Yeah.
1994.
These exiles, unlike the Banyarwanda, oh my
By
God,
Rwanda.
Bayarwanda, who migrated during the pre-colonial and colonial era, were regarded as refugees in their host countries and began almost immediately to agitate for a return to Rwanda. They formed armed groups who launched attacks into Rwanda. These were largely unsuccessful and led to a further reprisal killing of 10,000 Tutsis and further Tutsi exile. By 1964, more than 300,000 Tutsis had fled and were forced to remain in exile for the next 3 decades.
Three
Pro Hutu,
decades, that would put us at exactly 1994. So in 1964, everybody scattered, or at
yeah,
least 300,000 of them had scattered and left because it was fucking dangerous, and I don't blame them. But what did they all decide? Oh, you know, it's the 90s now. Maybe it's safer. And then they all came back.
more or less.
If I could interview somebody who like survived the Rwandan genocide and like mid question, they're like, yeah, my family fled back in the 60s, but then we came back. I would just stop the interview right there and be like, for fucking why?
For fucking why?
For fucking why?
T4KY.
Because I just feel as though like if you're gonna flee a country, your native country, or whatever the case may be, you're doing it for a reason.
Right,
Why go back?
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. There's a
I don't
reason you're
know.
not there.
I don't know.
But anyways, pro-Hutu and anti-Tutsi discrimination continued in Rwanda itself, although discriminate violence against the Tutsis did decrease somewhat for a time in the 70s, probably because they saw so many of them leaving. They were just like, they're leaving anyways, it's fine. Rwanda's population had increased from 1.6 million people in 1934 to 7.1 million in 1989, leading to competition for land. Historians such as Gerard Prunier believe that the 1994 genocide can be partially attributed to population density. I wonder what the population percentage was at that point now that they've like influxed so much. So yes, that's pretty much all that background. the next part is the Civil War, which started right before the 100 Days.
It started in the 80s.
What I mean right before, as in like that's the next major
I
thing.
was mostly saying that for the
Oh,
listeners, you dumb nut.
oh, mm.
Yeah, I was saying it for the listeners. We try our hardest to keep everything in chronological order, but as you
Yeah,
guys know from previous episodes, it's very hard, especially when we're talking about older things, whether it's serial killers or war crimes. Timelines get muffled. So that's why I was just like, I wanted to let them know the Civil War started in the 1980s.
yeah,
So just so you guys have a grandiose idea about it, because it started in the 80s, but there had been like premeditated stuff
right,
before the hand and like killings that had already happened, people who fled and stuff like that.
right. Yeah, and all that is, important to know, because the big question is, why do they hate the Tutsis? Well, because the Germans, we have that to look back upon, unfortunately. So the Germans, the Belgians, the Catholic Church had their hand in kind of creating that propaganda and that hatred towards Tutsis.
It just amazes me every single time we talk about a country that has genocide. It amazes me how, like, the influence of so many people, the propaganda really does stick with people. But then at the same time, I think of the here and now in 2023 with, because if you guys didn't guess, we are both from Florida. Not natively, God no.
Oh
But
God.
like seeing the propaganda with Ron DeSantis versus Donald Trump and how people really fall into the idealizations of both of them. And it's just like, how, my guy?
Yeah, history is wild.
Like like every country so far that's had a genocide, like when Germany did their, big thing, I always couldn't understand why they made it seem like Jewish people were more affluent than German people when you had Germans who were Jewish,
Yep.
or in the Caribbean, how a whiter that one I kind of get because that one's more based off of like racism and colorism, but like
Yeah.
how a white Puerto Rican is better than a dark skinned Puerto Rican.
Right.
But at the same time, it's just like, why? Like learning about slavery and all that stuff growing up, I was just like, why do people hate other people so much? Like, I'm an
Yes,
equal
it's true.
opportunity hater.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to hate you based off of your skin tone or whatever the case may be. Even if you're far right, I'm not going to hate you. My fucking son's dad is in the far right.
I'm gonna keep up.
But like what I'm saying is that that's not a pretext for me to hate you. What's going to make
Right.
me end up hating you is just how you act, how you speak, stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Like if you come up to me and you're like, "You know what? I'm Republican." I'm going to be like, "Cool, I'm independent."
Right.
But I'm not automatically going to be like, "Oh, you're trying to strip me of my shit," like how Republicans do to quote unquote snowflakes. Like, "Oh, you guys are, so sensitive
Yeah.
and this and that." And it's just like,
Meanwhile, they're crying over shit.
yeah,
Anyway, that aside,
sorry.
Rwandan Civil War. Let's just get back into this before we have a American Civil War. In the 1980s, a group of 500 Rwandan refugees in Uganda, led by Fred Rigiyema, fought with the rebel National Resistance Army (NRA) in the Ugandan Bush War, which saw Yoweri Museveni overthrow Milton Obote. These soldiers remained in the Ugandan army following Yoweri's inauguration as Ugandan president, but also simultaneously began planning an invasion of Rwanda through a covert network within the army's ranks. In October 1990, Fred led the force of over 4,000 rebels from Uganda, advancing 60 kilometers or 37 miles into Rwanda under the banner of the Rwandan Patriotic Front. Fred was killed on the third day of the attack, and France and Zaire deployed forces in support of the Rwandan army, allowing them to repel the invasion. Fred's deputy, Paul Kagame, took command of the RPF organizations, organizing a tactical retreat through Uganda. through the Virunga Mountains, the Virunga, yes, Virunga Mountains,
Yeah, Virunga.
and carried out in a rugged area of the northern part of Rwanda. From there, he rearmed and reorganized the army and carried out fundraising and recruitment from the Tutsi diaspora. So movements are happening.
Yep, yep, yep.
Kagame restarted the war in January 1991. So from the 80s to 1991, it was just getting weapons and recruiting people.
I was gonna say what you also see in the movie.
Yes, yes, you do. Honestly, you guys should watch the movie. It's a good movie. It's
It is an
hard to
amazing
watch.
movie. It's
Yeah,
a hard watch though. It's not easy.
yeah.
Because
One thing is
like
hearing about it, but
it's
oof.
easy if you sit there and think, oh, this is fiction, this is fiction, this is
Yeah.
fiction. But like when you realize that no, this shit happened in real life, in real time, like these people who survived are still alive now and stuff like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like it hits different. And like Don Cheadle's character from the get-go, he's just like, I need to save as many people as I can. It didn't matter if you were a foreign nationalist, meaning you were French, Belgium, or whatever, or if you were American, if you were Hutu, if you were Tutsi. He was just like on a mission to save everybody who was in that hotel.
Kagame restarted the war in January 1991 with a surprise attack on the northern town of Ruhengeri. The RPF captured the town, benefiting from the element of surprise, and held it for one day before retreating into the forest. For the next year, the RPF waged a hit and run style guerrilla war, capturing some border areas but not making significant gains against the Rwandan army. In June 1992, following the formation of a multi party coalition government in Kigali, the RPF
Kigali.
announced that's what I said.
You
Kigali.
said Kigali. It's Kigali.
Potato, potato.
I'm just saying. Listen, there's few words I know how to pronounce. So the ones that I knew how, the ones that I do know how to pronounce, I'm gonna say how to actually pronounce them. And you know what? Something else that I realized too, from watching the movie and also like doing research on how to pronounce certain things, and you're gonna hate this with your whole chest. You're gonna hate this.
I already
If
feel
you
it.
pronounce it in French, you're actually pronouncing it correctly.
I fucking hate it. Sorry, French people, and anyone who knows French.
I love you, French people. Give me all the croissants.
Oh, I do like me a croissant. Omelette du fromage. I know that. The RPF announced a ceasefire and began negotiations with the Rwandan government in Arusha, Tanzania. In early 1993, several extremist Hutu groups formed and began campaigns of large-scale violence against the Tutsis. The RPF responded by suspending peace talks and launching a major attack, gaining a large swathe of land across the north of the country. So they were actually just trying to squash the beef. And here they go.
And this was a year before shit went down.
Yep. So again, we're still not even at 1994.
But like, to be honest, it never fails. When you're on the road to squashing beef, that's when shit boils over.
Yeah, there's always someone who's just far left or far right that does the most. Peace negotiations eventually resumed in Arusha. The resulting set of agreements, known as the Arusha Accords, were signed in August 1993 and gave the RPF positions in the broad based transitional government and in the National Army. The United Nations Assistance Mission for Rwanda, a peacekeeping force, arrived in the country, and the RPF were given a base in the National Parliament building in Kigali for, for use during the setup of the BBTG. Now, in the early years of Hab, oh God, I remember pronouncing it, Habyarimana, Habyarimana's regime, there were greater economic prosperity and reduced violence against the Tutsis. So this is still like around 1993. Many hardline anti-Tutsi figures remained. However, including the family of the First Lady, Agus Habyarimana. What the heck? Habyarimana. What? Habyarimana. There we go. Who were
No,
known as the
there's
Akazu.
another name when we get deeper into this that I it's my side of the research, but I really want you to try to pronounce this
Oh
guy's name.
no. Oh god. Okay. They were known as the Kazu or Clan de Madame, and the president relied on them to maintain his regime. They were also called Zero Network for their goal of a Rwanda with zero Tutsis. Not great. Not great force to have. They when the RPF invaded in October 1990, Habyarimana and the hardliners exploited the fear of the population to advance an anti-Tutsi agenda, which became known as Hutu power.
Oh shit, they can't see me. I don't know why I did
No,
that.
we both did it. We're so dumb. A group of military officers and government members founded a magazine called Kangura, which became popular across the country. This published anti-Tutsi propaganda, including the Hutu Ten Commandments, an explicit set of racist guidelines, including labeling Hutus who marry Tutsis as traitors. I've read
Hey,
the Ten Commandments. It's crazy.
listen, but the heart wants what the heart wants.
Right. There's no real difference between the Hutu and the Tutsi.
The same thing could be said for Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and Cubans.
I agree. I agree. But I'm not saying I agree with the Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and Cubans. Not, right. I think they're all dumb. They're all dumb. Oh no, I see some names coming up and I'm a little scared. Oh my God.
You try to this is I remember when we said it when I said it to you while I was researching, don't try to pronounce every letter
And
because it's not they don't pronounce every single letter. It's like the first and the last syllable.
it's just crazy.
Because even with the guy's name, I can't find it. Where'd it go? Anyway, the one that I kept calling
Habyarimana.
Harambe when we were talking
Yes.
about it.
Habyarimana.
Sorry, guys. I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. It's just my brain, the way it works. If something sounds similar to something else, my brain will pick the lesser of the more complicated ones. So I'm not trying to like fuck anybody's day up. But yeah, they don't pronounce every single letter. And I don't understand how that's such a hard concept for you because you speak Spanish. You speak Caribbean Spanish, first off.
But,
Let's not just say you speak
okay.
Spanish. You speak Caribbean
In
Spanish.
theory, though, you read every letter, so I just
In
do that.
theory.
I
But
know.
remember our conversation from last night?
No.
Knowledge?
Oh, yeah. That's English. That's what I'm saying. In Spanish, in theory, you read every letter except maybe, the occasional H. But anyway, that aside. Oh, no, that's not where I was. To make the economic, social, and political conflict look more like an ethnic conflict, the president's entourage, including the army, launched propaganda campaigns to fabricate events of ethnic crisis caused by the Tutsi and the RPF. So they were just making up shit at this point.
That's what America does now.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. Shit.
I'm becoming an enemy of the state. I don't give a fuck.
Girl, I am trying to teeter that line. I don't need to be watched more than I probably already am.
Thanks to Bush in 2004, we are all being watched.
That's what I mean. More than I already am. Following the 1992 ceasefire agreement, a number of extremists in the Rwandan government and army began actively plotting against the president, worried about the possibilities of Tutsis being included in government. Habyarimana Habyarimana attempted to remove the hardliners from senior army positions, but was only partially successful. A Kazu affiliate, Agustin, that's bad Spanish, sorry guy, Dindili Yimana, and Sionest Bagosora, remained in powerful posts, providing the hardline family with a link to power. Through 1992, the hardliners carried out campaigns of localized killings of Tutsis, culminating in January of 1993, in which extremists and local Hutu murdered around 300 people. When the RPF resumed hostilities in February 1993, it cited these killings as the primary motive, but its effect was to increase support for the extremists amongst the Hutu population. Here we go killing. Honestly, the RPF was kind of just vibing. They were more reactionary.
Yeah.
The Hutu did something, so they would do something back. At this point, they were just reactionary.
Again, if you watch the movie, you see it.
Yeah.
Because they teeter the line between Hutu and Tutsi the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like, bro, whose side are you on?
From mid-1993, the Hutu power movement represented a third major force in Rwandan politics. In addition to Juvenal's government, which is the president, and the original moderate opposition, apart from the CDR, there was no party that was exclusively part of the power movement. Instead, almost every party was split into moderate and power wing, which is setting them up for you're either with us or you're against us, basically.
Yeah. But that's the motto for everybody.
Mm-hmm. With members of both camps claiming to represent the legitimate leadership of that party. Even the ruling party contained a power wing, consisting of those who opposed Juvenal's intention to sign a peace treaty. So now suddenly, even the Hutu people are kind of going against the president. They're thinking he's too soft on them. Several radical youth militia groups emerged attached to the power wings of the parties. These included Interahamwe, those who stand together, which was attached to the ruling party, and the CDR's Impuzamugambi, those who have the same goal. The youth militia began actively carrying out massacres across the country. The army trained the militia, sometimes in conjunction with the French, who were unaware of their true purpose.
You know, it's funny that on your side of the research it says, you know, they didn't know what they were actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
Wait until we get to my side.
Oh God, it gets worse.
It does. Extremely, expeditiously worse. Preparing for the genocide.
Now we're ranking up, guys.
Yeah, because as we mentioned before, I don't know why the fuck I just stuttered, but as we mentioned before, at this point now we're in the early 90s. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
this started in 1994. I was 2 years old.
Oh well, I was 4.
Yeah, because you were born in 1990. Because you're old.
Yeah. Oh. I feel it in my bones. It's okay.
If any of y'all were curious who was the older one, it would believe it or not, it's fucking Michelle. It's not me. I'm actually younger and way more immature. I just tame myself when it comes to this podcast.
I'm fucking drinking whiskey with fucking iced tea. I don't know what's coming out of me like at this point.
Again, we are not trying to be offensive. It's just this Rwanda as a whole is so
it's
sad.
So hard. Yeah, it's so hard to get through.
And both of us, we both cope with dark humor. So if we make some untasteful jokes, we apologize in advance, but we're trying to keep it within the bounds of, like, you know, YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook.
Right. We want to educate, bring to light, but also kind of just have fun while we do it. And not in terms of having fun at their expense, but just in the dumb shit that we come up with. You know what I mean?
Like, I'm not going to drag a Tutsi family at all, but I'll drag the fuck out of a Hutu.
Yeah, Hutu elite. Sorry, you guys got to get your life together.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you for coming to our TED Talk. Preparing for the genocide. To what extent the Rwandan genocide was planned in advance of the assassination the assassination of Juvenile continues to be debated by historians. A lot of what happened in Rwanda, even like when we get deeper into my side, there's a lot of debate on who did what and what caused what.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows like the true definite, like, boom, this is what started it.
Right.
Prosecutors at the ICTR argued but were unable to prove that the defendants planned the genocide prior to Juvenile's assassination. Every single time I say Juvenile, I just think of the 99s in the 2000s.
I do too.
In 1990, the army began arming civilians with weapons such as machetes, and it began training the Hutu youth in combat. Bro, leave the fucking kids out of this.
Kids with machetes, bro.
If the adults want to kill themselves, by all means, bro, but leave the fucking kids out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I get why they were trying to do it, because obviously when the adults are gone, who's left? The fucking children.
Right.
Which is why the baby boomers in office right now are shaking in their fucking boots, because millennials are now starting to come into power.
Mm-hmm.
So, hair flip. Officially, as a program, I almost said propaganda, a program of civil defense against the RPF threat, but these weapons were later used to carry out the genocide. So again, referencing the movie, because it's a good ass fucking movie. There's a scene where I can't help it. Listen, I'm going to tell y'all the entire fucking movie, so spoilers ahead. Not really, because we're literally talking about the events in the movie. But there's a scene where Don Cheadle's character, he goes to get like supplies for the hotel, because he's the hotel manager, and he's going to get like beer, whiskey, rice, beans, stuff like that. And he's going to a friend of his who's a distributor, who has his own warehouse and everything. And in the process of them loading crates into the van for the hotel, they grab the wrong crate, and the guy's like, no, not that crate, not that crate. They end up dropping it, and out pops just thousands of machetes.
Jesus Christ.
And Don Cheadle looks at the machetes and looks at his friends, and he's like, oh, I got them for a great deal, 10 cents per machete from China.
Oh my God.
Yeah, bro. Like, bruh. And I did all the death and everything in this episode. 'Twas not China.
My goodness.
It's going to throw y'all for a loop when we get into that part. Who actually supplied what to Rwanda? Well, not to Rwanda, but to the Hutu tribe. The Rwandan Armed Forces, aka FAR, expanded rapidly in 1990, growing from less than 10,000 troops to almost 30,000 in 1 year. The new recruits were often poorly disciplined. A divide grew between the elite presidential guard and, I don't know if that's a hard G or a soft G.
I think it's gendarmerie.
Gendarmerie units.
That sounds right. That sounds way better.
I told you, say it in French and you're good. But you have a disdain for the French language.
I really
do. Who were all well trained and battle ready, and the ordinary rank and file respectfully. In March 1993, Hutu Power began compiling a list of quote unquote traitors whom they planned to kill, and it is possible that
Juvenile.
That's what his friend. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Him. Juvenile's name was on the list. The CDR were publicly accusing the president of treason. What I don't understand wasn't the president Hutu?
Yes. The president started off good, but his wife was an extremist in the Hutu Power. She was part of the Akazu. So while he supported Hutu and all of that good stuff, they started to view him as going soft. And that was the problem. Because in his thing, he started off strong and then wanted to get peace. And they were just like, no, we don't want peace. We don't want them here. And that kind of caused the divide.
Clearly, as y'all can see, I don't pay attention to when she's reading. I'm in my own little world half the time. The power groups believed that the national radio station Radio Rwanda had become too liberal and supportive of the opposition. They founded a new radio station, Radio Televisión Libre de Mil Colonias.
That's fine.
Oh man. Also known as RTLM. The RTLM was designed to appeal to the young youths in Rwanda and had extensive reach. Unlike newspapers that could only be found in cities, the radio broadcasts were accessible to Rwanda's largely rural population of farmers because everybody had a radio.
Mm-hmm.
The format of the broadcast mirrored Western-style radio talk shows that played popular music, hosted interviews, and encouraged audience participation. You know what, though? Like, they didn't encourage participation in the way that this radio station encouraged participation.
Yeah, exactly.
Broadcasters told crude jokes like me and Michelle and used offensive language that contrasts strongly with Radio Rwanda's more formal news reports. That sounds kind of familiar.
Mm-hmm.
As the start of the genocide approached, the RTLM broadcast focused on anti-Tutsi propaganda. They characterized the Tutsi as a dangerous enemy who wanted to seize political power at the expense of Hutus by linking the Rwandan Patriotic Army with the Tutsi political party and ordinary Tutsi citizens. They classified the entire ethnic group as one homogenous threat to Rwanda. Yo, fucking brownie points. I said homogenous correctly.
So proud.
Thank you. Let it be the Rwanda episode that I pronounce everything fucking correctly. Not the Spanish one, not the French one, but fucking Rwanda. Anywho, the RTLM went further than amplifying ethnic and political division. It also labeled the Tutsis as Inyesni, meaning non-human pest or cockroaches. That is used so often, it's not even fucking funny.
It's part of one of the steps.
But the amount of times that they called them cockroaches, I was just like, Jesus Crustables.
Yeah, because it's like the lowest life form.
But at the end of the day, like, I know people do think cockroaches are the lowest life form or whatever. They're resilient as fuck.
I mean, yeah.
So how are cockroaches really that bad? I get they're a pest, they're invasive, but you tried to exterminate and it did not work. Anyway, which must be exterminated. See, they even used, they literally talked about these people like they were fucking bugs.
Yeah. And again, nothing separates a Hutu and a Tutsi than just a name. Nothing else. That's the craziest part to me.
Well, there are some reports that physically you could tell like some differences between Hutus and Tutsis. Like Tutsis were lighter skinned than Hutus. Hutus were darker. Tutsis had like a higher bridge nose. It wasn't as wide. Okay. So literally think of white versus black.
Oh,
because that's literally what it is at the end of the day. The Belgians favored the Tutsis because the Tutsis resembled more of like European features versus the Hutus were seen as the savages and stuff because their features were more prominently African.
Right.
Which at the end of the fucking day makes no fucking sense, but that's how people are. So yeah. Anywho. Leading up to the genocide, there were 294 instances of the RTLM accusing the Rwandan Patriotic Army of atrocities against the Hutu, along with 252 broadcasts that called for Hutus to kill the Tutsis. One such broadcast stated, quote, "Someone must take them, disappear for good, to wipe them from human memory, to exterminate the Tutsis from the surface of the earth."
They were not playing around. They were not mincing words. They said what they said, and they said it out loud.
Yeah. And I really try to read it in the same cadence that they used to say it on the radio broadcast, because I listened to a lot of the radio broadcasts. Because Hotel Rwanda wasn't the only thing that I watched. There was a couple different things that I watched. And when it came to them speaking in English, they had a certain cadence. that they
Right.
would speak in. So I'm trying to give the same effect.
You guys are getting the full experience here, guys.
Exactly. I'm all about the girlfriend. The whole experience. By the time the violence began, the young Hutu population had absorbed months of racist propaganda that characterized all Tutsis as dangerous enemies that must be killed before they seize control of the country. Mind you, the Tutsis were just chillaxing, minding their own business.
Yep.
Working their 9 to 5s, just vibing. That would literally be me. Everybody would be like, we hate these group of people. They must go down. I'm over here in the corner eating a fucking popsicle stick going, what's going on?
Right.
The RTLM's role in the genocide earned it the nickname Radio Machete as it related to the what?
Incitement.
The what?
Incitement.
Oh, the incitement to genocide. Sorry, for whatever reason, C's and G's, like, because they're both hard and soft, I never know when to pronounce what.
I know when they're hard. Okay.
Shut up. During 1993, the hardliners imported machetes on a scale far larger than what was required for agriculture. Sorry, somebody was probably packing these machetes going,
I don't think this is for farming, guys.
Yeah. As well as other tools which could be used as weapons, such as razor blades, saws, and scissors. Yeah. These tools were distributed around the country, ostensibly as part of the Civil Defense Network. Bro.
Look at you. Look at you.
Oh my God. No, like I'm like literally anything with a blade. It was like, if it has a blade, if you can sharpen it, we can kill them with it.
Yep, pretty much.
Like, that's insane to me.
Salute.
Oh wait, it's like it's there, but now it doesn't want to come out because you blessed me beforehand.
You're
now
welcome.
The demon has stayed inside. In October of 1993, the president of Burundi, Micnor Nadiende, there we go, who had been elected in June as the country's first ever Hutu president. No, this was the guy that I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
This is the guy that I was talking about earlier when I was like, isn't the president Hutu? This is the guy that I was talking about. Was assassinated by extremist Tutsi army officers. The assassination sparked the Burundi civil war between Burundi's Hutus and Tutsis and the Burundi genocide, with 50,000 to 100,000 people killed in the first year of the war. Bruh. The assassination caused shockwaves, reinforcing the notion among Hutus that the Tutsis were their enemy and could not be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Crustables. The idea of deliberate and systematic genocide, which had first been suggested in 1992, but had remained a fringe viewpoint, was now top of their agenda, and they began actively planning it. Hey, you guys, you radical groups that are out there, when you guys have an idea, fucking let it go.
Just let it go.
Just let it. No. Just let it go. They were confident of persuading the Hutu population to carry out killings, given the public anger at Ndande's murder, as well as the RTLM propaganda and the traditional obedience of Rwandans to authority. That's another fucking thing. Have you noticed something? Most of these countries that have genocide, another reason why it was so easy for them to do it is because they basically had civilians that like were scared of authority. I don't even want to say respected. It's more of like they were scared.
Scared of it, yeah.
So you could have made all of them do the cha-cha slide in the middle of the Capitol and they would have done it.
Yeah.
The power leaders began arming the Interahamwe. See, you wouldn't have said that way.
Interahamwe. I said it Interahamwe before.
Yeah,
I practiced that word.
And other militia groups with AK-47s and other weapons. Previously, they had possessed only machetes and traditional hand weapons.
Now you arming them, bro. Like, put them down.
Have you ever shot an AK-47?
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it is.
Oh my God. On January 11th, 1994, my fucking second birthday. Jesus Christ. General Romeo Dallaire, commander of the UNAMIR, sent his genocide facts to UN headquarters. I'm stuck on genocide facts. I need a drink. Hold on.
Girl, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Oh my God. The facts stated that Romeo was in contact with a top level trainer in the cadre of Interamwe armed militia of the MRND. A lot of everything that we're going to be saying is abbreviated, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally how it was laid out in the research. They said the name one time, and then the rest of it was abbreviated, and it's just easier because a lot of this stands for multiple words, and there's just too many words.
Yeah.
The informant, now known to be Matthew. Yep, Matthew. I don't want to say that word because the way it's sounding in my brain, it's going to make me sound very bad if I say it out loud.
Kirupati.
Okay. His chauffeur, Kasim, aka Jean Pierre, claimed to have been ordered to register all Tutsi in Kingal, according to the memo. Kasim suspected that a genocide against the Tutsis was being planned, and he said that in 20 minutes his personnel could kill up to 1,000 Tutsis. Bro, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Don't nobody want you to kill all these people. Mm-hmm. Well, no, there obviously there was people. But anyway, you know what I mean. Romeo's request to protect the informant and his family and to raid the weapons caches.
Yeah.
Oh, he revealed was denied.
Okay. The UN said, okay, good job, but no cigar.
Bro, the UN pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
Even in the movie, because there comes a scene where they're like trying to defend the hotel against the rebel Hutu people that are trying to attack. They all got their guns pointed, and one of the generals goes, "No, you can't shoot. You can't shoot." Fuck you, mean you can't shoot?
What the fuck?
You got like 80 people coming at you with machetes.
Exactly.
Like, shoot them.
Hell yeah.
Because they were there to keep peace. They weren't there to engage.
Ridiculous.
Keep peace and keep peace. The ICTR prosecution was unable to prove that a conspiracy to commit genocide existed prior to get the fuck out of here. Prior to April 7th, 1994. They're stupid. On April 6, 1994, the airplane carrying Rwandan President Juvenal and Cyprian, I'm not going to say his last name, the Hutu president of Burundi, was shot down as it prepared to land in Kingal, killing everyone on board. Responsibility for the attack was disputed, with both the RPF and the Hutu extremists being blamed. In 2006, an 8-year investigation by the French judge Jean-Louis Bruguier concluded that Paul Kagame, commander of RPF, had ordered the assassination. An investigation by the Rwandan government made public in 2010 blamed Hutu extremists in the Rwandan army. In January 2012, a French investigation was widely published as exonerating the RPF, but according to Philippe Reynige, the report did not exonerate the RPF. In November 2004, Emmanuel Mungisa, known as Imao Gafarita, a former Yeah, that was in Spanish. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's okay.
A former Rwandan soldier who said he had evidence that Kagame had ordered
Juveniles.
juveniles plane shot down was abducted in Nairobi hours before he was called to testify at the French inquiry. He was reportedly joining a long list of Mr. Kagame's opponents who have disappeared or died. Jesus Christ. Despite disagreements about the perpetrators, many observers believe the attack and deaths of the two Hutu presidents served as the catalyst for the genocide. I honestly think they were killed by their own people just so they had a reason to start it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Following Juvenile's death on the evening of April 6, a crisis committee was formed. It consisted of Major General Augustine
Dindiliyama.
him,
Yimana.
Colonel Theoneste Barbarossa, and a member of other senior army staff officers. The committee was headed by Bagosora, despite the presence of a more senior Augustine. Prime Minister Agathe. Yeah, I can't pronounce that. There's too many.
Mana. Yeah.
Was legally next in line of political succession, but the committee refused to recognize her authority. Respect my authority. Romeo. Huh?
Back to Romeo.
Yeah, back to Romeo. Met with the committee the night and insisted that Agathe be placed in charge, but Bagosora refused, saying Agathe did not enjoy the confidence of the Rwandan people and was incapable of governing the nation.
He said, fuck her.
It's because she was a woman.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. The UNAMIR sent an escort of 10 Belgian soldiers to Prime Minister Agathe with the intention of transporting her to Radio Rwanda. Let me reread that. With the intention of transporting her to the Radio Rwandan office to address the nation. This plan was canceled because the Presidential Guard took over the radio station shortly after and would not permit Agathe to speak on air. Later in the morning, a number of soldiers and crowd of civilians overwhelmed Belgians guarding Agathe, forcing them to surrender their weapons. Agathe and her husband were killed, although their children survived by hiding behind furniture and were rescued by the Senegalese
Senegalese.
That's how it's spelled. That's how I'm pronouncing it.
Sorry, that's great. That was good. I'm sorry. I can't be the only one being made fun of, damn it. Senegalese.
That's literally how it's pronounced or spelled, though.
Senegalese.
That's what I said.
Okay.
I probably didn't put emphasis on the N like you did, because who needs an N?
Girl! How you make it a silent N out of nowhere?
The same way that they make a silent P in pneumonia.
Pterodactyl.
Exactly. The 10 Belgians were taken to the Camp Kingal military base where they were tortured and killed. Hey, I jumped a few steps. Eventually, they were killed. Major Bernard, the commanding officer of the Presidential Guard unit, which carried out the murders, was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment by a court in Belgium in 2007. In addition to assassinating Agathe, the extremists spent the night of between the 6th and the 7th of April moving around the houses of Kigali with lists of prominent moderate politicians and journalists on a mission to kill them. Jeez. Fatalities that evening included President of the Constitutional Court, Joseph, Minister of Agriculture, Frederick, Party Liberal leader, Lendwal, and his Canadian wife and chief, Arusha Negator.
Negotiator.
Negotiator. Negator. Same thing. There's a lot of names, bro.
Boniface.
Boniface. A few moderates survived, including Prime Minister designate Faustus. Yeah, Faustus. Not doing the rest. But the plot was largely successful. Nice. At least something was successful.
Mm-hmm. Back to Romeo.
Huh?
Again. Back to Romeo again.
Yeah, according to Romeo, by noon on April 7th, the moderate political leadership of Rwanda was dead or in hiding. I didn't mean to laugh. I'm sorry. The potential for a future moderate government utterly lost. That's like
So
that no hope feeling.
Yeah, they killed off any, even if they were Hutu, that was just a moderate. That's why I think I agree with you. I think the Hutu killed Juvenal because he was going soft on them, and I think that's what caused it. Because then they get killed, and then they kill a bunch of these moderates. Like, it makes sense to me. The dots are connecting.
Right. An exception to this was the new Army Chief of Staff, Marcel. I can probably say this one. Maybe. Let's see. Marcel Gassinazi.
There's no A girl. Gatsinzi.
Whatever. Bagosara's preferred candidate, Augustine. His is even more difficult.
Bizimungu.
Huh?
Bizimungu.
Oh. Was rejected by the crisis committee, forcing Bagasora to agree to Marcel's appointment. Marcel's attempted to keep the army out of the genocide and to negotiate a ceasefire with the RPF, but he had only limited control over his troops and was replaced by the hardline. He was replaced by Augustine after just 10 days.
They had none of his shit.
Bro, like, come the fuck on. So yeah, after just 10 days, Augustine,
so replaced. That's literally all the background. That's insane. Oh.
Yeah. Our next episode, we're going to get into the genocide itself.
The 100 days starts. The 100 days starts.
Yes. We've given you all the tension, all the buildup over the decades, the numerous decades.
Mm-hmm.
Our next episode, we will get into the genocide itself. So keep in tune. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, you just like faded off into nothing.
Yeah, because I started getting a phone call too.
Oh.
So I was like reading that, trying to figure out my words at the same time. But yeah, as always, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, Gmail, Alcohol Atrocities. We're everywhere. We're on YouTube. Like and subscribe. If you don't like us, don't subscribe. Keep going.
Leave us a comment.
Don't leave a comment because the internet is mean.
Okay.
So don't leave a comment. The internet is mean, and we cannot handle rejection.
It's true.
But as
We're
always,
mentally ill.
But as always, keep your assholes tight. We will see you for part 2, hopefully relatively soon.
Yep.
Bye.
Your only